Chris, what's happening?
Just sitting in Abilene, Texas. You caught me on a business trip, so I had
Okay,
time to
cool, cool.
hop on without
Hey,
having to worry about family obligations.
that's what's up. Hey, I appreciate you hopping on and giving me your time. Okay, I saw I saw what you said in EVS's. I was like, it was just a matter of time. You the man with the numbers. Tell us why this is not a good thing.
Okay, real quick, if you go to either Riververse Detractors on Reddit or go to my Twitter, uh, I just posted the numbers for day three. So if anybody wants to follow along, I'm not going to share my screen since anybody can find these themselves, and I'm well versed enough in it to give you the highlights overall. Um, but here's why this is not a good thing. When this campaign started out, in the first few hours, I got on Twitter 4 hours into the campaign, and I said, I'm not impressed by what I'm seeing.
Okay.
And even though these, 4 hours in and day one, they hit over $900,000, and the usual suspects at the Rippaverse fan base and the Rippaverse themselves were touting how great and wonderful this was. Well, there's some problems with that. First of all, the actual buyers is right on par with Alpha Core. And when I say right on par, I mean within like 2 to less than 3 percentage points.
Okay.
And the actual book sales of the books themselves are actually down compared to Alpha Core. So what's driving that number is simply the amount of merchandise that's currently available, because there's more merchandise available than there's ever been, and the price points of this merchandise, particularly those packages that people gobbled up in day one and then moving on into day two of this campaign. So these numbers are going to probably start to stall, and these campaigns have done this in a very rinse and repeat fashion. From day one to day two, it dropped off over 80%. Today, from yesterday, it dropped another 75%. And
Ouch.
again, this is on par with Alpha Core. So we're not seeing anything great. We're not seeing the hype behind Yaira come to any type of fruition. What Eric July is seeing probably now more than ever is what is the cult number. And when I say the cult number, you refer to them as the ride or dies or whatever.
Yeah.
Who are those people? No matter what I put out, no matter what the backstory is, no matter what dumbass video I put out, how many people are going to ride or die with me, and how many people can I milk? And I'm going to give Eric July a little bit of credit here, because I think he started to finally figure that out, because he saw negative customer growth, negative sales growth from campaign to campaign. From my early projections, this will outperform Alpha Core somewhat.
Okay.
By day six of this campaign, I will make my official projection. And the reason being is because ISOM 1, ISOM 2 were both at 68% of total sales by day six. Alpha Core was at 70% of total sales by day six. So we have a very good baseline for where this is going to end up. And again, that's across campaigns that were separated by over $1 million and thousands of customers. But that day six percentage of total sales is almost written in stone across these campaigns.
Okay.
And if I had to project, now I'm going to give you an exclusive, but I'll refine this number on day six. This campaign is looking to shape up at about 1.6 million. And when you consider that the average price per transaction early on is significantly more, and when I say significantly more, over 30% higher than Alpha Core, that's where that difference is. But what's also going to probably be true about this campaign is there will be less customers, or if there are more than there were at Alpha Core, it will be statistically insignificant.
Okay.
And most likely, he's not going to outsell Alpha Core as far as the actual total number of books. And if he does, it will also be statistically insignificant. So he's 4 books in. Yaira was touted as the book that was highly anticipated, right? Everybody since ISOM 1 wanted to know about Yaira. People, he was showing the videos of people cosplaying as Yaira at these conventions that he's coming across. Sly, it ain't there. His customer base isn't there. He's got the cult, he's got his ride or dies, and that's it. Um, but the word is out. He's not gaining audience. It's not getting bigger in any real way, shape, or form. And he now knows more than ever. It doesn't matter if it's Chuck Dixon. It doesn't matter if it's the Saskas. It's not going to matter if it's Mike Barron. It doesn't fucking matter. Eric July is the product. He's always been the product. That's what people are buying, and they're buying it less and less and less every single time. He has been his own worst enemy throughout his entire process. And those are the numbers. This isn't my opinion. The numbers are what they are. And in business, we look for trends,
Right.
and the trend is spot on. There's, it's almost comical how predictable this is. And when I first did the Alpha Core analysis that I wrote up the third or fourth day of this campaign, I said, these campaigns will become a self fulfilling prophecy because they're so damn predictable, statistically speaking, anyway, and by the numbers. And unfortunately, he can't get out of his own way, and we'll see just how many customers he keeps or whatever. But at least for him in this campaign, he's going to know who he has to milk and what their tolerance is for being milked. But he's going back to the same well over and over and over and just hoping those people want to eat.
Okay.
And it's just that simple.
Does he ever release the numbers of how many actual books are sold?
Yeah, I mean that's on the website right now. I cover A, B, C, D. So
Okay.
I mean he does release those numbers. He doesn't break down obviously like between merch and stuff like that. But if you took, that just the baseline cost for the book on any given campaign, like Alpha Core, the merch sales to book sales, and again, this isn't considering signature series, those ones that are graded or whatever. But his merch for Alpha Core was about 55-45 books versus merch.
Okay.
Uh, Based on my best, calculation, it was the same for ISOM 2, similar for ISOM 1. So yeah, he's living off the fact that these people are going to do upsells, buy more than one cover, buy these huge packages, and I mean that's how he's doing it because he has to keep milking the same people,
Okay.
and that's the reality.
Is this a win in any light at all?
No, no,
Not at all.
no. There is slot. There's no business on God's earth that would look from a statistical drop in customers from what he had from ISOM 1 to 2 to Alpha Core, and then the book or the product that he was touting that was going to save him. You also have to remember every campaign he's dumped more and more resources into. Like he did the live action trailer here. He's gotten, better artists as time has gone on. Supposedly the Saska sisters are capable writers. So he's trying to do all of these things and to have no statistical audience growth at all, if not losing a few percentage points as this campaign plays out. That's kind of how I see it trending.
Okay.
There's no world where that's successful. And particularly when you look at the fact that he scaled his company based on the ISOM 1 results. Because when he put out his first and only transparency statement, that's where he said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get this warehouse. I'm making all these people part-time to full-time. I'm hiring the best artists that I can. I'm hiring the Saskas. I'm hiring Mike Barron to write books. I'm getting EVS. I'm getting Shane Davis to do covers. So he's spending money. Like he's just dumping it out as fast as he is bringing it in. And the number of employees that he says he has, the number of contractors that he says he has, and that's why. And you made a great point. That mill is going to keep the lights on for a little bit, but he's not. His pockets aren't getting any deeper. And what we've seen also for this campaign that we haven't seen before is he's taken the crowdfunding approach to this. And we all remember not too long ago how he was bashing crowdfunding, and we see now why he eased off of that over the last 2 or 3 months, because he didn't preprint these books, which he has for every single campaign before. And there's two schools of thought, and I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt this time because I don't think he's earned it. If he had been smart, he would first of all have never pre-printed these books. He would have done something similar to what he's done now. I'm going to see what comes in. I'm going to tell you how many copies are going to be done by the end of April, almost 2 months out from where we are now.
Mm.
And then I'm going to print them, and then I'm going to send them out. I'm sure he's got at least a few hard copies to see how they turned out. And he's got the PDF or the file at the printer, and he's just got to give them a number, and they'll be able to print those out in fairly short order so he
Okay.
can make, his delivery date.
Okay.
But there is questions. Does he have the money to print the books? Because he hasn't done this before. So it just raises questions, and it doesn't make him look like a savvy businessman because he's doing this for the first time, and particularly when he's kind of taking shots at crowdfunding. Now he's doing that himself to a large degree. Also, the books that he has this time for the CGC Signature Series, he's previously capped those books in the campaign, and he's talked about that. Those numbers aren't capped right now, and there's currently no Yaira books in the CGC census. Those books, for those graded copies, haven't been produced yet. So when he talks about moving differently, I don't know exactly what that means, but I I'm not going to give him the credit as a businessman that he finally figured out how to do it right. I'm going to lean more towards, at this point, he didn't have a choice to not preprint these books. And I don't know what to tell you. I mean, Yaira Winters turned into Yaira Spring, and fulfillment doesn't start until the end of March or May, I should say. And by the time those first books get into anybody's hands, it's going to be June.
June. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
Yaira's summer.
Right.
And we all know what he said about Gooding was supposed to be released in spring. Is he going to intertwine that towards the end of the campaign with Yaira? Who the hell knows? Horseman is supposed to come out this summer, so he's going to be delivering Yaira, and then Horseman and Gooding are going to be all jumbled together. There's things going on at the warehouse
Well,
that
I'm glad you said, because
are being
Horseman,
spun.
he's been kind of quiet about the Horseman for a while now. Because at one point this was going to be next up, and
Yeah.
it's been kind of quiet. So before I let you go, so is the Yaira his pivot, or is this the cushion? Or what do you think the thought process is or was with the Yaira project?
I mean, I think this was something that he probably had to go back and look at very heavily because of all the criticism that he took from the ISOM books, even from Alpha Core, from an art aspect, to say, I've got to get this right. Whatever that means to him, I've got to get this right. And I think he prolonged putting that out. And again, maybe it had something to do with funding. Maybe it didn't. Obviously, none of us know what those actual numbers are when he opens up the Rippaverse bank account on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But again, this is a guy who's sitting on a lot of continuing expenses month to month. And he's getting $1 million. I don't see this going much past 1.6 if it gets there at all. And he's going to, by the time that he ships and fulfills that, he's probably going to have blown through almost not all of that money. So you're absolutely right. That's just keeping the lights on. This $1.1 million that he's at right now is absolutely nothing to celebrate in
Okay.
any way whatsoever.
Final question before I let you go. When he first announced the Rippaverse fulfillment, I instantly thought about you. I'm like, what would? So I want to get your take. What do you think? Is that his end goal? IP farming, get a percentage of people's IPs, and he'll fulfill it. Is he trying to be like a Simon and Schuster?
Well, here's the thing that I found funny about that. When he did that video about Ripperson, he made a point to say, you've got to be in a good place
Right.
before I'm going to work with you.
Yeah.
Well, if you're an indie creator or just anybody with a brain that's functioning, you're going to have to look at things from a production standpoint. What's it going to cost for me to put this book together? From artists, writers, the inkers, the pencilers, and all these people who produce the actual product. And then I've got to know how much I need to raise. So I've got to go to somebody and start getting pricing on a hypothetical number of books. And if you're going to rip a send or whatever the hell he wants to call it, and you're like, hey man, my book's not done, but I'm trying to get numbers here for the purposes of putting together a business plan and figure out how much I have to raise. Based on what he said, he's not going to work with you because you're not anywhere close to being done. And
Right.
if you're an indie creator, you're having to get all that. And most of these guys are getting the money and then doing that process later. Hardly any of them are putting together a product first and then doing it. And that's why people are saying, like, well, people are late on books because they have to get the money to then pay all of these different people to do this. And he's on the opposite end of it. So that's why he's, working with Drunk 3PO, which is a buddy of his. I think Ripasend is, a collection of, doing favors for buddies. And he's like, hey, man, my buddies want to put out a comic or somebody I like. Yeah, do it that way. But the way he presented it, who's going to work with him?
Right.
And then he pissed off a lot of people. There's a couple of these people out there. The guy's name escapes me. Critical Blast.
Okay.
He does what Eric said. There's a big hole in the market for, and he's like, he's been on people's streams. There's no hole in the market. He's like, I do this every day for creators. There's no hole. There's no gap. There's no need. This exists in this space right now. I myself do it every single day for all types of people. And Eric, just like when he was disparaging crowdfunding, is basically putting out on the street, I have the answer to your problems. And other people who do this professionally before him, like, no, there is no problem. There is no market need. You're not meeting any market need that's not already being met. What the hell are you talking about?
Hmm.
So he's just pissing off everybody out there every time he opens his mouth. And I mean, you're spot on. It's when you hear him talk, you can't cheer for the guy anymore. And I don't know. And I'll leave you with this. I don't know if you heard about that Katie did girl
Yes.
who about that, and he put out a tweet about it. Hey, I heard one of my haters is like in the dogs or something. I still have Eric July's cell phone number. I reached out to him personally last week and I said, look, Eric, this is kind of going too far. You're putting out tweets. And if you go to Rippaverse Detractors on Reddit, I put out all of my text correspondence that I had with him. So there's no hyperbole. This isn't just me telling you a story. It's all there in black and white. And I said, look, Eric, show some decency. Tell your fans who are doxing people, not just calling people, dog lovers or fuckers or whatever it is, but doxing people. I've said this is what your fan base is doing. This is starting to hurt people, not just internet banter back and forth. I said, Eric, show some decency. Just make a post, say something. Hey, this is not okay. Let's not do that. Let's not be those people. I said, Eric, I will stop Rippaverse Detractors. I will get off your ass. I will take down everything I've said negative about you if you do this one thing. I even said, please. He pretty much told me, you do you. I'm going to do me. I got nothing to apologize for. There's nothing. I said, Eric, let's bury the hatchet. He's like, there's no hatchet to bury. I mean, again, you can read his own words if you look at those text messages. And I said, all right. I said, I will come on your stream, let you monetize me as a hater. How about that for old time's sake, basically? He wouldn't do it. This is the kind of person Eric July has become. And I told him, I said, Eric, the person I met and the person I supported, where is that guy? And after I got that, Sly, I'm going to do. This is the first campaign I've been a official detractor, start to finish. I'm going to ride this campaign's ass every single day. I'm going to follow every single fucking thing he puts out, and I'm going to nail him to the wall as often as I possibly can to expose every dumb fucking thing that he does. Because if you lack basic human decency to tell your idiotic fan base, hey, let's stop doxing people, and that's too much to ask,
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. And if I see him on the streets of Frisco, I'm going to flip him off and smile at him for saying, like, hey, man, how's that campaign going for you? if you ever need somebody to help you box up the warehouse when this shit inevitably goes into the toilet, you've got my number. And that's exactly how I feel about him. Because again, that was a personal interaction where I had where it was like, I will lay down my sword if you do one thing decent. Show 1 ounce of decency.
Mhm.
Couldn't do it. And that's where I've said for a while, if Eric ever came out and owned up to his mistakes, I could get back on the train and be like, okay, he just had too much hubris. He's going back on it. He's going to actually say, you know what, guys, I effed up. Here's the concerns that I've heard. This is why I did it. I'm going to actually move differently, and I'm going to fix it the best way I can. And if you guys want to tell me or give me some more thoughts on that, I'll be open to it, and just show some humility. He won't do it. And when he couldn't even ask his fans to stop doxing people, a person with 2 children,
Mhm.
putting out their real name that they've not released to the public, where they live, all this shit. He's like, these aren't my fans. This is on Kiwi Farms. I got no control over this. I got no control over this. I said, Eric, you've got weight with these people. If you ask them to stop, they'll probably stop, or at least ease off.
Mhm.
And that showed me what kind of a man he is. I was willing to stop it all if he would just do one thing. He couldn't do it. He has none of my respect, professionally or personally, at this point. And I'm gonna call him like he is. He's a piece of shit. I said that after he defended the fucking rape van tweet from the Saskas, and he called it a set van.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
It,
That was bad. That was
but
bad.
I'll say this, Slot, it's just hard to respect him as a man at this point.
Okay.
Not even a businessman, but just a man. And and that's sad. It truly is. Because again, this is a person I met, I supported, and it it's disappointing to say the least. But Eric July, as a human being at this point in time, is a piece of shit until proven otherwise. And that's just my thoughts on it, man. I'm certainly never going to try to tell you to think how you're going to think, but I'll have no problem putting my opinion out on the street after my interactions with him.
Hey, no, I appreciate you coming through it, and you're the man with the numbers. Like I haven't heard anybody go at you when it comes
Because
to the
they
data.
can't.
Yeah,
They can't.
yeah.
They can say, well, he made $1 million. You're just a hater and you don't like black people who succeed. I'm like, dude, think whatever you want, but these are the numbers, and no person in the business world would look at this and think this is successful by any stretch in any way.
All right.
So
I'm
that's
not gonna
what it
keep.
is, man. I'll let you
But
get on with your show, man, but I appreciate you, man.
Hey, and I
Always do.
appreciate you. Thank you, Chris.
Yep. Have a good one.
You too. Ciao.